Welcome to our first live video. Our first story today is called It Watched Us from the Cornfield and Took Us One by One. If I'd known the last summer before high school would be the one that shattered my world, I would have clung tighter to the little things. I would have paid more attention to the details, the flickers of movement in the trees, the way the air felt wrong at night, or how shadows started to linger just a little too long. But you don't expect horror to seep into your life like a slow, poisonous fog. You don't expect the people you trust the most to be the ones hiding the worst kind of secrets. I'm telling this now because I have to. Someone has to know the truth. It started with a dare. We were a tight group back then. Me, Lily, Tyler, Marcus, and Jess. We did everything together, from late-night swims to sneaking beers from our parents' garages. We were young enough to still believe we were invincible, but old enough to want to test it. That night, we were out at Harlan's field, just past the tree line, where the corn grows so tall it swallows sound. Tyler had brought fireworks, and Jess was halfway through telling one of her ridiculous ghost stories when Lily pointed toward the forest. "Swear to God," she whispered, "someone's been watching us from over there for like 10 minutes. We all turned. Nothing. Just darkness and the rustle of summer wind through the corn. "Probably a raccoon," Marcus said, chuckling. But Lily wasn't laughing. Her face was pale, and I noticed her clutching her necklace, the one her grandmother gave her. "I'm serious," she said. "It was tall, like a person." Tyler, being Tyler, grabbed a flashlight and stormed toward the edge of the field, yelling, "Hey, you lost or something?" We all followed, the flashlight beam bouncing through the stalks. Nothing. No tracks. No sounds. Still, the mood shifted. The fireworks show ended early, and we all biked home in silence. The next day, Marcus didn't show up. At first, we thought he was just being a flake. He did that sometimes. But when his mom called Jess, asking if we'd seen him, that's when the panic settled in. We retraced our steps, even walked through the field again. No sign of Marcus. No sign of anyone. We didn't call the cops. Not yet. We were scared, sure, but we didn't want to believe something bad had happened. We were kids. We weren't ready to think like that. Then Tyler started getting the notes. Folded pieces of paper shoved through his window screen at night. Just a few words scribbled in jagged handwriting. "I see you. You were there." Next. He thought we were messing with him at first. A sick joke. But when we were all together, and another note showed up in his backpack, we realized something was really wrong. Lily swore she saw someone standing across the street from her house one night. Jess said her dog wouldn't stop barking at her closet. And me? I started hearing whispers. Not in my head. Real, audible whispers. Coming from places they shouldn't. The bathroom drain. The air vents. Once, even from my pillow. 2 nights later, Jess disappeared. Gone without a trace. Her bedroom window was open. Screen popped out like someone had pulled her through it. No signs of a struggle. No footprints. Just gone. We were spiraling now. Lily barely slept. Tyler kept a bat with him at all times. And me? I started digging. I went to the library, looking through old newspapers, seeing if anything like this had ever happened before. That's when I found it. A string of missing teens dating back decades, all from our town, all vanishing around the same time. Late summer, just before school started. Never solved. Always chalked up to runaways, but it was too neat, too patterned. There was always a group, always the field. Then Tyler vanished. Lily and I were the only ones left. We clung to each other like lifelines. She moved into my room, and for a while, we thought maybe that was the key. Safety in numbers. But the notes kept coming. The whispers got louder, and at night, I started seeing shapes in the hallway. Black, hulking figures that vanished when I turned the lights on. One night, Lily shook me awake, tears streaming down her face. "I saw him," she whispered, "in the mirror. He was behind me." We decided to go back to the field. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was brave. But we had to do something. We waited until after midnight, took flashlights and pocket knives, and rode our bikes like we were 10 years old again. The corn was taller than ever, the air too still, like the world was holding its breath. We stepped into the rows. It was quiet, too quiet. I called out for Marcus, for Jess, even for Tyler. Nothing. Then the flashlight flickered, and Lily gasped. Ahead of us, hanging from the corn stalks by strings tied around their wrists, dozens of dolls, old, worn, and rotting, some missing eyes, some with their mouths sewn shut. Then we heard footsteps, running, fast, behind us. We turned and ran, cutting through the corn, trying to get to the clearing. But Lily tripped. I turned back, and I saw him. The thing, tall, wrong, wearing a face that wasn't his, skin too tight, eyes hollow, and yet familiar. I grabbed Lily, yanked her up, and we bolted. We didn't stop until we were back in my room, doors locked, lights on. We didn't sleep. The next morning, Lily was gone. Not missing. Gone. Her stuff, her scent, her toothbrush, her clothes, even the indentation in the bed, like she never existed. But I remembered, and I still had the final note left on my pillow. You were the one I wanted all along. That day, I went to the police. I told them everything. They didn't believe me. Not really. But they filed reports, took statements. I knew they wouldn't find anything. So, I went to the one place I hadn't thought to check, Mr. Avery's house. He'd been our science teacher in middle school. The cool teacher. Always gave us extra credit. Let us hang out in his classroom after school. He lived just 2 blocks away from me, in a little gray house with the peeling paint and the overgrown lawn. He was the one who told us about the field in the first place. I biked there just as the sun was setting. Knocked once. No answer. Then I tried the door. Unlocked. Inside, it smelled like mold and copper. The walls were covered in newspaper clippings. Every missing kid. Every runaway. Pictures of us. Candid shots. Some taken from windows. Some taken inside our homes. I found a door in the floor of the pantry. A trapdoor. Below, a staircase into darkness. I went down. The basement was lit by flickering bulbs. In the center, a table. On it, photos. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. And in the far corner, something moved. I approached slowly, heart in my throat. It was Tyler. Alive. Barely. Chained to the wall. Eyes wide, mouth sewn shut. I screamed. Fumbled with the chains, trying to undo them. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me, and the voice. Always so curious, Evan. Mr. Avery stepped out of the shadows, holding something that looked like a bone. He was smiling, but it wasn't a smile. It was hunger. You were the smart one, the quiet one, the one who noticed. I grabbed a rusted pipe from the floor and swung. It connected with a crack, and he dropped. I didn't look back. I dragged Tyler out, called the cops from the neighbor's yard. They found everything. Proof, victims, even Lily's necklace. Mr. Avery was arrested, convicted. The town buried the story, like it always had. But I still hear the whispers. I still wake up with notes on my pillow. Because when you look into the dark long enough, something looks back, and sometimes it doesn't like being seen. This next story is called After Hours. It was supposed to be a fun team-building exercise. A group of us from the marketing department decided to spend the night in the office to work on a big project and bond over pizza and late-night brainstorming. I thought it would be a great way to unwind with my coworkers, but I had no idea how wrong things would turn out. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we settled into our usual spots, surrounded by the familiar glow of computer screens and the smell of greasy pizza. Laughter echoed through the halls, and for a while, everything felt normal. We shared stories, played games, and even shared a few ghost stories for good measure. It was all in good fun until the clock struck midnight. That's when the atmosphere shifted. The laughter faded, and an uneasy silence settled over us. We were all aware of the creaks and groans of the old building, but tonight, they felt different. It was as if the office had come alive, whispering secrets in the dark. I shrugged it off, convincing myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I glanced around the room, and my coworkers exchanged nervous glances. "It's just the old wiring," one of them said, trying to lighten the mood. But deep down, I could sense a growing tension. We decided to take a break and head to the break room for some snacks. As we walked down the dimly lit hallway, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, a shadow darting past the glass conference room. I stopped in my tracks, my heart racing. "Did you guys see that?" I asked, but they brushed it off as a trick of the light. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. After grabbing some snacks, we returned to our desks, but the unease lingered. I tried to focus on my work, but I kept hearing faint whispers echoing through the halls. I glanced at my coworkers, who were also starting to look uneasy. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. They nodded, their eyes wide with fear. Just then, one of our team members, Sarah, stood up abruptly. "I'm going to check the supply room," she said, her voice shaky. We all exchanged worried looks, but she insisted. "I'll be right back." I watched as she walked down the hallway, her figure disappearing into the shadows. Moments later, we heard a loud crash from the supply room, followed by a scream. Panic surged through us as we rushed toward the noise. When we reached the supply room, the door was ajar, and Sarah was nowhere to be found. The room was in disarray. Boxes were toppled over, and the lights flickered ominously. "Sarah," I called out, my voice trembling. There was no response, only an eerie silence. We searched the room frantically, but found nothing. Just as we were about to give up, I noticed a small door at the back of the supply room, one I had never seen before. It was slightly open, revealing darkness beyond. Against my better judgment, I pushed the door open wider. "Sarah," I called again, but only silence greeted me. Without thinking, I stepped inside. The air was cold, and I could feel a strange presence surrounding me. I turned back to my coworkers, who hesitated at the threshold. "Come on, we have to find her," I urged. Reluctantly, they followed me into the darkness. As we ventured deeper, the whispers grew louder, swirling around us like a sinister wind. My heart pounded in my chest as I felt an icy breath against my neck. I turned, but there was nothing there. The walls seemed to close in on us, and I could feel the panic rising. Suddenly, we heard a faint cry coming from deeper within the darkness. It was Sarah. "Help, I'm in here," she shouted. We rushed toward her voice, our hearts racing. As we rounded a corner, we found her huddled in a small room, trembling with fear. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. Before we could reach her, the door behind us slammed shut, plunging us into darkness. We were trapped. The whispers turned into anguished wails, echoing in our ears. I felt a cold hand grasp my shoulder, and I spun around to find myself face to face with a shadowy figure. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and I could feel its malevolence. "Get away from her!" I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the darkness. My coworkers were frozen in fear, and I could see the terror in their eyes. The figure advanced, and I knew we had to escape. I grabbed Sarah's hand and pulled her toward the door, but it wouldn't budge. With a surge of adrenaline, I slammed into the door, praying it would give way. The wails grew deafening, and the presence of the shadowy figure loomed closer. My coworkers snapped out of their terrified stupor and joined me, pounding against the door with all their strength. Just when it felt hopeless, the door burst open with an ear-splitting crack, sending us stumbling into the supply room. The oppressive whispers stopped instantly, replaced by an eerie silence. The flickering light stabilized, and for a moment, everything seemed normal, except for the lingering coldness in the air and the lingering sense of being watched. We didn't waste another second. Grabbing Sarah, we bolted out of the supply room, slamming the door shut behind us. The hallway felt impossibly long as we sprinted back to our desks, our breaths ragged with fear. "What the hell was that?" Kevin gasped, hands on his knees as he tried to steady himself. "I don't know, but we're not staying to find out," I said firmly, grabbing my bag. My fingers trembled as I packed up my things, my mind racing with questions I wasn't sure I wanted answers to. As we hurried toward the exit, I glanced back at the darkened hallway. The office looked the same as it had hours ago, but now it felt foreign, wrong. Just as I turned away, I saw it, a single, dark figure standing at the entrance to the supply room, watching us. Its eyes gleamed in the dim light, and as I blinked, it vanished. I didn't say a word. I simply pushed open the doors, letting the cool night air wash over me. My coworkers followed suit, none of us daring to speak as we stepped into the safety of the parking lot. We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of what had happened pressing down on us. "Let's never do this again," Sarah muttered finally, her voice barely above a whisper. There was no argument. One by one, we got into our cars and drove away, leaving the office, and whatever was inside it, behind. As I pulled onto the road, I glanced in my rearview mirror. For a split second, I swore I saw the shadow standing by the office doors, watching us leave. I pressed down on the gas and didn't look back. Our third story is He Swam in the Forbidden Lake. Now he's not the same. It started as a stupid dare. "Come on, Logan. Just one lap across," I said, standing at the shore of Black Hollow Lake. The moon barely lit the still water, making it look like an endless pit of ink. "You're such a chicken," I teased. Logan scoffed. "Fine. But when I come back, you're buying me pizza for a week." I grinned and watched as he stripped down to his boxers. The air was cool, the night silent, except for the occasional rustle in the trees. "Better hurry before you lose your nerve," I called as he waded into the lake. Everyone in town knew the legend of Black Hollow. A long time ago, people whispered that something lived beneath the surface, something that pulled swimmers under. No one swam here anymore. But legends were just that, stories meant to scare kids. Logan took a deep breath and dove forward, his body cutting through the water. I watched his shape move in the moonlight, waiting for him to pop up on the other side. Then, silence. A few seconds passed, then 10, then 15. "Logan," I called, stepping closer to the water's edge. A moment later, he emerged with a loud gasp, sending ripples across the lake. I let out a breathy laugh. "Dude, you scared me." He swam toward shore, but something felt off. His strokes were too slow, too stiff. When he reached shallow water, he stood up, letting the water drip from his pale skin. Too pale. I stared. Logan wasn't just cold. His skin was ghostly white, his lips tinged blue. His eyes, usually a warm brown, looked almost black in the dim light. And then he spoke. "I told you I could do it." The voice was wrong. It had Logan's rhythm, but it sounded hollow, like someone was speaking through him instead of from him. I forced a chuckle. "Dude, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost." He tilted his head. "I feel great. You should try it." His lips curled into a grin, too wide, stretching his face unnaturally. A shiver crawled down my spine. "You should come in," he said again. "The water feels amazing." I stepped back. "Nah, I'm good." Logan's grin faltered, but only for a second. "You should." His voice was softer this time, but insistent. His pupils were too large, swallowing the color in his eyes. I took another step back. "We should get home. Your mom's gonna..." His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. His grip was ice cold, too strong. My breath hitched. "You should come in," he repeated. I yanked my arm away. "Logan, stop messing around." He didn't blink, didn't move, just stood there, dripping, staring. Then he took a step closer. I bolted. I don't remember running through the trees, only that my heart pounded so loud I couldn't hear anything else. By the time I reached my bike at the trailhead, I didn't dare look back. I pedaled home so fast my lungs burned. The next day, I didn't sleep. Logan's voice, "You should come in," echoed in my head all night. By morning, I told myself I'd imagined it, that maybe he was just messing with me. Maybe it was just the cold. Then I saw him at school. Logan sat at our usual table in the cafeteria, but something was wrong. His movements were too precise, too controlled. He barely blinked, and his skin, still too pale. "Dude, you okay?" I asked, sitting down hesitantly. He turned to me, grinning that same stretched grin. "Never better," he said. His voice was still wrong. Then he leaned in. "I was thinking we should go back tonight. The water was so nice. You'd love it." I swallowed hard. "Nah, man. I'm good." He didn't stop smiling. By the end of the day, I noticed something worse. Logan was talking to people, convincing them to come to the lake with him that night, and they were agreeing. Something in my gut screamed at me that if they went, they wouldn't come back the same, or they wouldn't come back at all. I had to stop them. That night, I hid in the trees near the shore, watching as Logan led 3 of our classmates toward the lake. The water was unnaturally still. "You'll love it," Logan said, stepping in first. "Just a quick swim." The others hesitated. I clenched my fists. I had to do something. "Hey!" I shouted, stepping out of the trees. They turned. Logan's grin widened. "You came." His voice sent ice down my spine. I took a deep breath. "Guys, we have to go. Now." One of the others, Jason, frowned. "Why?" Logan said. "That's not Logan," I snapped. Logan cocked his head. "Of course I am." Then, without breaking eye contact, he walked further into the lake. The water swallowed his legs, his waist, his chest. "Come in," he whispered. A shape moved beneath the water. Dark, twisting, wrong. I grabbed Jason's arm. "Run!" Something burst from the lake, behind Logan. A hand, long skeletal fingers, black as the deepest part of the ocean. I didn't wait to see more. I yanked Jason and the others with me, sprinting toward the trees. Behind us, I heard Logan's voice. Not shouting, not angry, just calm. "Come back. It's wonderful down here." I didn't look back, and I never saw Logan again. Next story is, I grew up in a town that disappears into fog. Now I know why. They say every small town has a secret. Some old myth passed around campfires. Some family curse whispered about behind drawn curtains. Most are harmless. Ghost stories to scare children. But in Mill Hollow, the secret is real. And it waits in the fog. Mill Hollow's not the kind of place you stumble into. You have to mean to come here. Even then, the road twists like it's trying to lose you. GPS fails. Cell signals drop. The trees grow thicker the closer you get. Pines standing like sentinels along narrow dirt paths. Rusted signs lean into the wind, pointing nowhere. We have one school, one diner, one grocery store with a warped floorboard in aisle 4. There used to be 2 churches. Only one still stands. The other, St. Luke's, burned down long before I was born. People say lightning hit it. Others say something older lit the flame. We don't talk about it much. We don't talk about a lot of things. For most of my life, Mill Hollow felt like a place untouched by time. Seasons came and went. Kids graduated and either stayed or didn't, and life went on in its slow, stubborn rhythm until the fog came. It was Friday, October 3rd. The air had the bite of early autumn. Leaves crunched underfoot like paper as I locked up Donnie's hardware. The sky was already dark, though the sun had only just set. I remember the wind dying down, and then nothing. Not quiet. Silence. The kind that presses on your ears like deep water. Then the lights dimmed. Not flickered. Dimmed. Like someone was slowly turning down the world's brightness. I turned around, confused, keys halfway into my pocket. And that's when I saw it. The fog. It came rolling down Main Street from the east. Thick, pale, and wrong. It didn't drift or rise. It crawled, hugged the ground, slid along walls and curled around corners like fingers. I swear it moved with purpose, ducking under doorways, weaving between cars, slipping through mail slots and cracks in foundations. I stood behind the glass door of the shop and watched, frozen. I couldn't explain it, but I felt like it was watching me back. I didn't sleep that night. Something about the fog stayed in my bones. The next morning, word spread fast. James Langston was missing. 11 years old. Last seen chasing his dog after sunset. His mom found the back gate open. Tiny footprints in the dew led halfway across the yard before they just stopped, like he'd vanished into the air. Search parties combed the woods. Drones buzzed the skies. Even the river got a team of divers. Nothing. 2 days later, Clara Reeves disappeared. Lived alone up on Mill Hill. Her front door was open, dinner set on the table. Her car sat idling in the drive. By the end of the week, 5 people were gone, and the fog kept coming. Always after sunset, always from the east, behind the charred skeleton of St. Luke's. It would drift in slow, coat the town like a wet wool blanket, and sit, quiet and still, until exactly 11:41 p.m., then vanish like it was never there. We tried to explain it. Everyone did. Freak weather, gas pockets, a killer using the mist for cover. But we knew. It was the fog. The town changed fast. People taped salt to their windows, hung crosses, dream catchers, whatever they thought might help. The church held nightly vigils. Pastor Eli tried to rally hope, but even he started locking up before dark. Me? I started documenting it. I kept journals, charts, times and dates. I noted how the fog always followed the same path, how animals refused to go near the eastern woods, how birds flew over Mill Hollow without ever landing. And then there were the dreams. At first just whispers, a voice outside my window calling my name. Then memories. My grandfather, long dead, standing in my kitchen asking why I forgot him. Old friends I hadn't seen in years, accusing me of things I never did. I'd wake drenched in sweat, lungs aching, like I'd screamed in my sleep. And I wasn't alone. People in town started seeing things in the mist. Silhouettes, movements, faces. On October 11th, I watched Sarah Green walk into the fog. 17, smart, driven. She was looking for her little brother's stuffed bear, dropped during a rush inside. I told her to wait, begged her not to go, but she didn't even seem to hear me. She stepped into the mist with a flashlight, and the beam vanished within seconds. I chased after her. The fog was different up close, dense, heavy. Breathing felt like inhaling smoke and static. Sound barely traveled. I shouted her name, but it came out thin, swallowed whole. That's when I saw it. A figure, towering, slender, but wrong. Joints where there shouldn't be joints. Its arms hung low, grazing the ground. It had no face, just a hollow, swirling void where its head should be. It turned toward me. I didn't run. I couldn't. My body locked. My mind screamed. The thing didn't move, didn't speak, but it entered me. I felt it clawing through my memories. My first kiss, my father's funeral, every moment of pain or joy I'd ever known, dragged into its eyeless void and held there. It showed me Sarah. She was screaming, but no sound came out. Her flashlight flickered once and died. I stumbled backward, tripped on the curb, and crashed onto Donnie's steps, gasping. The fog didn't chase. It never chases. It waits. Sarah never came home. I went to Sheriff Keenan that night with everything. My notes, my maps, times, patterns. He didn't laugh, didn't scoff, just stared, pale and quiet. Then he unlocked a drawer and handed me a thick file. Old newspaper clippings, handwritten notes, photographs warped with age, and a journal, leather-bound. E.K. Elias Keenan, his grandfather, stamped on the front. The sheriff didn't say a word while I read. Fog returned. 10 missing in 3 weeks. Same as 45. Same as 05. Church site still the source. Ritual failed. Town voted not to try again. Silence is survival. I looked up. What ritual? He poured 2 drinks, handed me one. His hands shook. The founders made a deal, he said. Back in 1905, the first time the fog came, St. Luke's was built over something. They thought they could contain it, feed it even. Said it fed on memory, grief, fear, the parts of us we hide. And they let it take people? Not everyone, just enough to keep it quiet. Why didn't they stop it? He laughed, bitter. They tried. Every few decades, someone gets brave. They try a ritual, seal it, banish it. Never works. Or maybe it does. And then it wakes back up later. This time, he said, it wants more. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I planned. I returned to the ruins of St. Luke's with road salt, a camcorder, my grandfather's old flare gun, and the ritual, copied from Elias Keenan's journal. A chalk circle, a blood offering, and Latin I could barely pronounce. The fog came early. It surged over the ruins, like it was reclaiming its throne. I knelt on broken stone and began the circle. The humming started first, low like a swarm of bees far away, then louder, vibrating the ground. From the fog they came. Sarah, James, Clara, dozens more. Faces half-formed, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. Not alive, not gone, just held. Then it appeared. Not the thin figure, not this time. Something larger, a shape of bone and smoke and shadow, towering over the ruins. It wore faces like masks, shifting, flickering. My mother, my brother, my own. It opened its mouth, and every emotion I'd ever felt screamed back at me. Joy, rage, despair. It poured into me, a tsunami of feeling. I shouted the invocation. Blood dripped into the circle. It recoiled. The fog twisted. I saw something at its core, a black, pulsing heart. I fired. The flare hit dead center. Light exploded. The creature shrieked without sound. The fog pulled back, shredded by the blaze. The figures vanished like ash. And then, silence. Real silence. The humming was gone. When I stumbled home at dawn, the town was still. That night, the fog didn't come. For the first time in weeks, we breathed. People smiled again. The school reopened. The harvest festival was rescheduled. Sheriff Keenan resigned the next morning. I haven't seen him since. But something's wrong. I still dream. Only now, the voice doesn't ask. It remembers. Every night at 7:17 p.m., I feel it. Just a chill, a breath, a whisper at the nape of my neck. I think I didn't stop it. I think I fed it. And I think now it knows my name. Story number 5. When the Shadows Move, Paranormal Experiences Explained. I always thought ghost stories were nonsense, just tricks of the mind, illusions caused by darkness and fear. That was before I lived in that apartment, before the shadows started moving, before I realized they weren't just watching me, they were waiting. I moved into the apartment on a chilly October evening. The place was old, the walls heavy with a history I couldn't see but could feel. It had been vacant for months. The landlord was all too eager to hand over the keys, barely meeting my eyes when I asked about the previous tenant. The first night it started, I was sitting on the couch unpacking boxes when something flickered in my peripheral vision. A shadow shifting in the far corner of the room. I turned my head sharply, expecting to see something logical. Maybe a curtain moving in a draft, or a play of light from the street outside. But there was nothing. Still, the feeling lingered, a weight in the air, like something unseen was standing just beyond the edges of my vision, watching. Over the next few nights, it got worse. The shadows weren't behaving like normal shadows. They were wrong. They stretched unnaturally long across the walls, moving even when nothing else did. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. Then I saw it. It happened around 3 a.m. I woke to the sound of something scraping against the floor. Slow, deliberate, like nails dragging across wood. My breath hitched as I turned my head toward the bedroom doorway. And there it was, a shadow, taller than any person, stretching unnaturally high, its limbs too long, its head crooked at an impossible angle. It stood just inside my bedroom, motionless. It didn't have a face, but I knew it was staring at me. I couldn't move. My body was paralyzed with sheer, suffocating dread. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I could hear it breathing, if you could call it that. A slow, raspy inhale that filled the entire room, like dry leaves rustling in a cold wind. Then it moved, not by stepping forward, not by shifting naturally. It glided. I felt something press against my chest, an invisible weight, crushing, suffocating. I tried to breathe, but the air in my lungs turned to ice. Just as I thought I would pass out, it whispered, not words, not in any language I could understand, but I felt it. The meaning burned into my mind. Let me in. I don't remember what happened after that. I must have blacked out, because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through my bedroom window. But the air was still thick with something unseen, something waiting. I should have left right then, but I didn't. I convinced myself it was sleep paralysis, stress, exhaustion, anything but what I knew, deep down, was real. That night, I left every light on. I refused to sleep. Then, at exactly 3 a.m., every bulb in my apartment exploded at once. Shards of glass rained down, plunging me into absolute darkness. And in that darkness, I saw them. Not just one. Dozens. They crawled from the walls, slithering along the floor, their limbs twisting unnaturally. Some were tall, others small and hunched, their movements jerky and unnatural, like broken marionettes. They surrounded my bed, their whispering voices overlapping in a chaotic, suffocating hum. Let us in. Let us in. Let us in. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. Then the tallest one, the first one I had seen, bent down until its face, or where its face should have been, was inches from mine. It opened its mouth, a gaping, endless void of pure darkness, and I fell into it. I don't remember hitting the floor. I don't remember waking up. But somehow, I was standing outside the apartment, barefoot, the cold morning air biting at my skin. I never went back. I tried to move on. I changed apartments, changed cities, but it didn't matter. They followed me. The shadows in my new home move when they shouldn't. My reflection in the mirror lags a second behind. Sometimes I wake up with scratches on my arms, bruises in the shape of fingers, and every night at 3 a.m., the whispering begins again. Let us in. If you ever see the shadows move, if they start watching you, do not acknowledge them. Do not listen. Do not let them in, because once you do, they never leave. Story number 6, The Humming in the Ashwood Forest. They say you can always hear it before you see anything. The humming, a low droning sound, almost like a didgeridoo, being played from somewhere deep in the earth. The locals in Ashwood call it the dusk curse, and no one with sense dares to step into the forest after sundown. When the hikers went missing, nobody was surprised. Concerned, sure, but surprised, not even close. They were YouTubers, wanderlust watchers, or something like that. 5 of them, young, cocky, always poking around abandoned places and whispering into GoPros about ghosts and cryptids. The kind of people who saw folklore as a challenge. Their final upload, at least the one they posted intentionally, was dated March 12th, a 30-minute teaser titled Ashwood After Dark, Breaking the Curse. It ended with the group standing at the tree line, the sun dipping low behind them, their laughter growing nervous as the first hints of the humming started. That video got nearly 1 million views. The ones that followed, those were different. They started showing up unannounced. No thumbnails, no titles, just timestamps. The first one dropped 2 days later, March 14th, 2:14 a.m., a shaky night vision shot. Someone's heavy breathing dominates the audio. The camera swings wildly, catching glimpses of trees, moss-covered ground, and a sliver of sky through the canopy. A figure, maybe Jenna, the group's navigator, stands a few feet away, stock still. She's facing a tree. Or, no, she's facing the bark, pressed up against it, like she's listening to something inside. And then the humming starts. Low, penetrating, like it's coming from every direction at once. Jenna doesn't move. The feed cuts. March 15th, 3:03 a.m., another video, this one from Kyle's phone. He's whispering to himself. Something about circles. He says he's walked in one for hours, even though the compass keeps changing. His face flashes briefly in the camera, eyes sunken, bleeding from his ears. He starts to cry, then scream, but it's silent. His mouth moves, but there's no sound, except for the humming that never stops. By March 20th, there were 9 videos in total, all uploaded automatically from their phones, apparently through scheduled backups. Authorities tried tracing them, but the GPS data was corrupted, just a mess of coordinates bouncing around the forest like a pinball. Rescue teams went in. Only one came back out. I spoke to him. He wouldn't give me his name, just stared past me with red-rimmed eyes and muttered, "Don't listen to it. Don't let it know you can hear it." I grew up in Ashwood. I remember when people used to picnic near the creek trails, way before the stories started, back when the forest was just trees and birdsong, not a goddamn tuning fork for madness. I always thought the stories were exaggerated, small-town superstition, until the videos. Curiosity's a hell of a drug. So, yeah, I went in. Don't ask why. I don't have a good answer. I just needed to know. Maybe I thought if I saw it myself, I could make sense of what happened to them. I brought a sat phone, a camera with analog backup, No wireless anything. I marked trees every 50 feet, set alarms for every half hour. I planned to be in and out before dusk. That was the plan. It started earlier than I expected. Around 4:30 p.m., the air got heavy, like before a storm. But there wasn't a cloud in the sky. The forest went dead quiet. No birds, no wind, just the growing pressure of something unseen. Then, the humming, soft at first, barely there, but it drilled into the bones. My compass spun in lazy circles. My marks on the trees vanished. I don't mean I couldn't find them. I mean, they were gone. Bark uncut. Like I never touched them. I tried to leave. Turned back exactly the way I came. Walked for 20 minutes. Found myself back at the same fallen log. The same empty water bottle I dropped on purpose. I swear I felt something watching me. Not from the trees, but from under them. Like the earth had eyes. Then I heard a voice. Kyle's. Clear as day. Right behind me. Hey, over here. I spun around, and there he was. Or something that looked like him, but wrong. Office. His mouth moved, but it didn't match the words. Like an old film, badly dubbed. And his eyes, they were vibrating, literally shaking in their sockets, like they were struggling to stay inside his skull. I ran. The humming followed. I don't remember getting out. One moment, I was sprinting past twisted roots and blackened trees. The next, I was crawling through the ditch beside Highway 11. A trucker found me. Said I was bleeding from my nose and ears, mumbling something about resonance patterns and wooden mouths. It's been 3 weeks. The authorities still haven't recovered the hikers' bodies, but their phones are still uploading. One yesterday, one this morning, each one darker than the last. The latest one showed the forest floor, still, silent. Then, just before the video cut, a single sentence whispered in that broken, dub-like voice. You can hear it now, can't you? I haven't left my apartment since. Not because I'm afraid of going outside, but because I started hearing it again. The humming, even when there's no sound. And it's getting louder. And last, but certainly not least, we have story number 7, titled, I Went for a Walk at Sunset. Something followed me home. I never should have gone out that night. I was restless, eager to clear my head. So I went for a walk along the wooded path behind my house. It was sunset, that strange, in-between time when the sky blazes orange, but the shadows beneath the trees stretch long and deep. I had walked this trail 100 times before, never giving much thought to the rustling leaves or the occasional snap of a twig. But that night, the woods felt different. The air was colder than it should have been for early autumn, and there was an odd stillness, like the trees themselves were holding their breath. The usual evening sounds, crickets, birds, the distant hum of cars on the highway, were absent. The silence was thick, pressing against my ears like a heavy fog. Then I smelled it, a rancid, coppery scent, thick and suffocating. It was the stench of rot. My stomach clenched as I stepped forward, drawn by morbid curiosity or some unseen force. That's when I saw it. A man lay crumpled on the side of the trail, his body twisted at an unnatural angle, limbs splayed like a discarded marionette. His chest had been torn open, ribs gleaming in the fading light, his organs gone. His eyes stared up at the darkening sky, mouth frozen in a silent scream. Blood soaked the ground around him, already blackened by the shadows. I gasped, stumbling back, my heart slamming against my ribs. My mind screamed at me to run, to turn back the way I had come. But I was frozen, trapped in the awful gravity of the scene. Then I noticed something even worse. The man's legs. Chunks of flesh had been stripped away, exposing sinew and bone. The ragged wounds weren't clean, like those from a knife or an animal's bite. They were torn, shredded, as if something had gnawed at him. A low, wet sound broke the silence. A shuffling. Something was moving in the trees just beyond the corpse. I took a step back, my breath coming fast and shallow. My eyes darted through the gloom, scanning the dense thicket. The trees loomed like black sentinels, their skeletal branches reaching toward the darkening sky. And then I saw it, a figure hunched among the trees, impossibly tall, its limbs too long, too thin. It moved with a jerky, unnatural grace, shifting from tree to tree without a sound. Its skin was stretched tight over sharp bones, pale and mottled, almost translucent in the dim light. It had no lips, just a maw of jagged, yellowed teeth. Its eyes, sunken hollow pits, locked onto mine, and my blood turned to ice. It had been watching me. A strangled gasp escaped my throat. The thing cocked its head, as if studying me, deciding. Then it moved. Not toward me. Not yet. It loped forward, its long, bony fingers curling around the dead man's ankle. With a sickening crunch, it lifted him, as though he weighed nothing, dragging the lifeless body back into the trees. The spell broke. I turned and ran. Branches lashed at my face, my feet barely touching the ground. As I sprinted down the path, my breath came in ragged gasps. But I didn't dare slow down. I didn't dare look back. The trees blurred around me, the path stretching endlessly before me. My house, my safe, warm house, was too far, too far. A sound rose behind me, a wailing, guttural howl, so full of hunger it made my soul shrink inside me. It was close, too close. My lungs burned, my legs screamed. But I ran. The last sliver of sunlight vanished, swallowed by the night, and the woods behind me came alive with the sound of snapping bones. The sound sent a fresh surge of terror through me, my body moving on pure instinct. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The thing was there, in the dark, and I knew if I saw it again, if I met those hollow, starving eyes, I wouldn't be able to keep running. The trees blurred around me as I tore down the path, lungs burning, legs shaking. My house was still so far away, but I could see the break in the trees ahead, the faint glow of my porch light flickering through the gaps. Safety. I just had to make it. A sharp, guttural breath rasped from behind me. Closer now. I could hear the crunch of something moving too fast through the underbrush. The snap of branches under something heavy, yet horribly thin. It was gaining. I forced myself to go faster. The path sloped upward. My foot caught on a root. I pitched forward, barely managing to catch myself with my hands. A bolt of pain shot through my wrist, but I ignored it, scrambling to my feet. In that split second, I heard it move. It wasn't running anymore. It was crawling. The dry rustle of leaves, the creak of shifting joints, the slick, wet sound of something dragging itself forward. It was just behind me. A sob caught in my throat. I launched myself up the last stretch of the path, my porch now fully in view. My hands fumbled in my pocket, searching for my keys. Almost there. Almost there. Then, the air turned deathly still. The sounds behind me had stopped. I hesitated, one foot on the porch step, the keys clutched in my trembling fingers. The silence pressed against me, thick and suffocating. I could feel it, watching, waiting. Slowly, against every screaming instinct in my body, I turned my head. The trees were nothing but shadows now, black shapes twisting in the dark, and just beyond them, two sunken eyes gleamed from the void. It was standing at the edge of the woods, just far enough to be hidden, but not far enough that I couldn't see it. Its head was tilted at that unnatural angle, its lipless mouth stretched wide in something that wasn't quite a grin. It didn't move. It didn't need to, because as I fumbled with the lock, my pulse hammering, I understood something horrifying. It had let me go, not because I had escaped, not because I was safe, but because it knew something I didn't, because now I had seen it, and now it knew where I lived.